Welcome back to the Bridge Plus FinTech Odyssey, and a very good afternoon to our friends who have joined us virtually as well as physically here at Bridge Plus 79 Robinson Road, Singapore today. We had a very insightful sharing session this morning by our thought leaders and are raring for more this afternoon. The Bridge Plus FinTech Odyssey is an annual showcase organized by Bridge Plus as part of our participation in the Singapore FinTech Festival Innovation Lab Crawl. An enabler of the FinTech community, we have hosted and curated FinTech events over the years and have planned our signature FinTech Odyssey in collaboration with our members and partners to showcase their latest innovation and breakthroughs related to the sector. The overarching theme this year is on the FinTech impact. This is the first of 2 days jam-packed with activities that we have planned in conjunction with our members and partners and will include panel discussions, pitching sessions, and keynote speakers. Activities will be in a hybrid format with physical and virtual participation. We will then conclude in tomorrow. For the uninitiated, Bridge Plus is CapitaLand's flexible workspace and community development platform, spanning across 7 cities in Asia, including Shanghai and Bangalore. We first launched in Singapore Science Park in October 2017 and have become host to enterprises like Rev by AXA, the FinLab by UOB, and as well as CapitaLand tenants Shopee, Johnson & Johnson, and Dyson. 79 Robinson Road is the newest addition to our Bridge Plus family, having opened its doors earlier this year to welcome members such as Bank of International Settlements Innovation Hub, Tribe, and other fast-growing companies. Our community vision is to develop 79 Robinson Road into a destination at the center of the CBD of Singapore, where international fintech communities can gather regularly to confer and collaborate as a community. We do so through our community development initiatives and thoughtful event-driven content programming to bring people together to make great things happen. We invite like-minded leaders and professionals who have an interest to contribute and give back to the community to co-locate and collaborate with us. Whether you are a leading enterprise setting up an innovation lab or a startup scaling for growth in today's fast-paced environment, we provide the community to help you succeed. We are honored to have your participation and look forward to an exciting day of thought leadership. We are amid some very unusual times, but are thankful nevertheless to be able to continue having this yearly event for the continuous sharing and learning with our community. In light of the current measures, please make sure to be masked at all times and to maintain safe distancing. Without further ado, we would like to welcome Ms. Pauline Ray, co-lead of the BCG FinTech Control Tower, and she will be sharing on current FinTech investment trends. Let's put our hands together to welcome her. Ms. Ray, please.
Super. Thank you so much for having us. We're super happy to be here at Bridge Plus FinTech Odyssey. Actually, we're just in the process of moving upstairs. So we really look forward to continue our working with startups, with fintechs, and over next year, and building this community that you spoke about. So we are on day 4 of the Singapore FinTech Festival, and I hope you've been enjoying it. I think timing is everything, and the timing of this one was excellent. So a few months ago, when the first started coming out that we were going to do a FinTech festival Singapore FinTech Festival was going to do it on Web 3.0, a lot of people said, you know, what is this? What does it have to do with FinTech? And then a few weeks ago, Facebook, boom, comes up with the metaverse. And people started seeing, you know, okay, what was the big deal about it? You know, banks started thinking, okay, what are they on about? Similarly to what they did with Libra. Regulators started saying, okay, what do we need to regulate here? Technologies companies started saying, okay, we need to launch tomorrow. So pretty interesting timing. So I really, honestly, I encourage you to take a look. There's a number of really interesting sessions, educational sessions, informative sessions, but it also gives you the appreciation of all of the different stakeholders, the difference of definitions, the diverging views as well on what Web 3.0 is. So, and at the end of it, you also could get a Web 3.0 certificate. I'm going to try to get mine this weekend when I have time. All right, so first of all, today what we're going to be talking is on funding, equity funding that's going into FinTech, because there's a lot happening in this space. But first of all, you're probably wondering, who are we? You know, Boston Consulting Group, but you probably haven't so much heard of the FinTech Control Tower, maybe you have. So what's really a story? So similarly to many, we built a tool within our consulting business that turned into a software, that turned into a business. This is really, it's something similar story that what you've seen with likes of Slack, DoubleClick, and other companies, right? And it was really a tool that was built of the necessity within organization, right? To really understand the FinTech ecosystem. So, and what's really exciting is that today we're launching the beta version of our Insights tool. So pretty excited about that. All right, so let's kick off with some funding information. So this is just a little bit more about us. So as I mentioned, the FinTech Control Tower, what it looks to resolve is really look at the world of FinTech. So currently we have 27,000 FinTechs and growing. We've classified them in a taxonomy and a classification that really makes sense. So say, for example, from a business line, capital markets, wealth management, and so on, product, payments, lending, because when you look at payments, it could be retail, it could be SME, it could be corporate banking. So in that way, we've done everything to make it more comprehensive. All right, so let's start with the story. Okay, we can move slide, right. So today, what we can say globally is that 20 to 30% of the economy is the economy is financed when you look at GDP by sector, right? But that's changing really, really fast. Yesterday, I was in a panel on embedded finance with Neum and Rapid, which are infrastructure providers, which are making embedded finance for brands, for technology companies, for non-FIs, NFIs, and FinTechs possible. But also I was there with Traveloka, who most of you might know, airline ticketing and hotel booking, but also expanding into lifestyle and embedding financial services into that. So what was really interesting here is that we are seeing, and I mentioned this yesterday, in 2019, 816Z said that every company will be a FinTech company because every company will derive a significant portion of revenue from financial services. And when you look and you use, for example, Stripe as a proxy, which really drew my attention as well, because we had there was a session with Stripe. Stripe was valued at $9 billion in 2017, and today is valued 2021 at 95 billion. So with this, you can really see that this space is growing extremely fast. And in terms of venture capital, the percentage of venture capital that's going into FinTech in the 2000s was 5%. In 2018 was 20%, and today is doubling. So it's really moving extremely, extremely fast. Right, so now let's go to the funding flows. Let's just go back. Just wanna briefly go into the story. So as you can see, I don't need to tell you, you can read that, but it's really, it's a record-breaking year, right? Yet again, but this year really stands out, right? We're already at double the amount of 2020. And it's really, I think, especially because of COVID, we've broken down all the previous barriers and we're really pushing financial technology. And as well, all of this funding is unlocking unprecedented access to resources and propelling the reach and also the development of products. So it's extremely, extremely exciting period to be in, and the year hasn't closed. So we're very excited about this. And by the way, once we finish the global view, I also want to go over the Singapore story. Okay, we can go to the next slide. So there's a lot of numbers here. We are BCG after all, and we love slides. So what I wanted to say here is that at a macro level, there are many drivers that have impacted, the increasing in the financing that's going into here. As I mentioned earlier, we have a massive migration to digital. right? I think you probably, majority of us didn't have as many financial apps as we do today, you know, before March last year. And we also have the demand of alternative financing mechanisms. We have as well the democratizing the access as well of financial services. We saw that in trading and investments, you know, like unfortunately some bad examples, but also some really good examples that that trading is now really accessible to all of us. And obviously the eruption of crypto, right? You're really seeing this over, especially around this year. So that's all of those factors at a macro level have really been pushing this funding and just, you know, getting investors really excited about this space. Now, if we just stay here, I just wanted to highlight just a few more numbers. Is that, you know, just to put it into perspective, these amounts is that the total, you know, if you look at the total sum of 2019 and 2020, you find that in 2021, and 2021 together represent the total amount of funding that was provided from 2010 to 2017. So it's just, you know, the dry powder that we found from all of the type of investors into FinTech is just mind blowing. Okay, so let's just discuss Q3 for a second. Again, Q3, a record-breaking quarter, sorry, and a really interesting in that. So if we move then to the next one. So now what we wanted to say as well, and we wanted to highlight, is the amount of funding that's also being I think for the first time really going into emerging markets. And I think this is, again, it was propelled by COVID, because in this sort of emerging markets, there's and especially the penetration of mobile phones, we've seen quite a lot of demand for the proliferation of startups and giving us the ability to access financial services in that way. So this is a really interesting story that we wanted to highlight as well. In addition to that, one of the things that I've been really excited about, and we'll talk actually about the Asia story. We're going to do a double click into Singapore in a bit, but one piece that we were really excited about is actually Africa. Africa historically hasn't really benefited from a lot of VC funding, but what we're seeing, and we're seeing in other emerging market countries, especially as well here in Southeast Asia, is that with COVID in March, we saw quite a lot of students being stuck, actually coming back home and being stuck home. And actually what they brought in was quite a lot of ideas. They started getting together and also building, building startups, bringing back some of that knowledge that they have acquired in other parts of the region. You know, they came here and they go, what do you mean I can't do this with my phone? So super interesting, or with my bank. So super interesting, and something that really very excited to watch for. Okay, we can move to the next slide, please. Okay, I'm just gonna, okay. So what we just wanted to do here is just to highlight the amount of money that's going into these companies and the rich variety, right? I mean, we track 27,000 fintechs, and this is just obviously a number of examples. But what you can really see is the variety that you're seeing through the regions, you know, and is all the way, you know, from APAC with TOS digital banking, for example, Razor Pay acquiring solutions, all the way down to, you know, crypto, obviously in the US, and Wealthsimple with digital investment management. So super interesting variety of types of fintechs and the investment that we're seeing, and also the amounts, because, you know, if we go to the next, if we go to the next slide. So I think one of the interesting pieces that we notice as well is the amount of mega rounds, as we showed on the Q3 pictures. We've never seen such a high level of mega rounds. What we call mega rounds is 100 million and above. And you can see them, you can find them in every space. So here what we've done is that we've broken down at the highest level by product. So you can see here that when you look at payments, at lending, insurance, you know, accounts, and we'll double click into accounts, but also trading and investment, and technology and support, which in reality is financial infrastructure. You can see the huge amounts, not only in mega deals, but also the percentage year on year that these clusters are attracting. Okay, you can go to the next one. All right, two really interesting examples that I wanted to highlight. Number one is, first of all, SME lending. This is something that was really interesting because in Q3 alone, 77% of the amount of funding that went into the lending cluster went into SME lending. And this is important to know because actually in 2020, that amount crashed. There was very little equity funding that was going into the space because there was a fear of, you know, some of these SME players not being able to meet the repayment of the debt. But that changed because there was also a drive to digitize SMEs. So it was possible to gain better data to be able to provide those credit lines. And then finally, challenger banks. Challenger banks is also a very interesting one. You have these players that are looking to basically rebundle financial services. You know, they were vertical champions, providing, you know, ease way of having access to a sort of prepay account, but more and more they're moving into other areas like trading and investments and insurance. And let's go to the next slide, please. This is a piece actually that we did in conjunction with the Singapore FinTech Association that I wanted to show, is that just, you know, when you look at the number of digital banks as well that are coming into the market, you know, the proliferation of all of these players across the regions, you can appreciate, you know, how that amount, you know, this is why the amount is translating in such a high level. But what is also interesting to note is just, you know, it's the growth across the region, including our region. And just a fun fact is that the majority of the profitable challenger banks are actually in the region in Asia. Okay, next one. M&A activity. M&A activity is actually very strong. Very strong from all sorts of players. You have fintechs that are looking to buy, potentially, you know, make acqui-hires or add products or regions to their portfolio or capabilities. But you have also, you know, infrastructure players like MasterCard, and Visa. You have also incumbents like JP Morgan with the acquisition of Nutmeg. So you have a real variety of acquirers that are looking into the fintech space. And then a final note on the global picture before we jump into Singapore, it's SPACs. Let's go to the next slide, please. All right, so basically what this slide tells you is that there we have seen this new way of raising funding. And it's actually not specific at the moment to the region, although, you know, we see a lot more activity in the US, but we actually have seen quite a number one, obviously, with some of our super apps here in Asia. So also an interesting development to watch for. I think there's still an open question on how does this work? Will it work? But pretty exciting nevertheless. Okay, so we can switch to the Singapore story. So for the Singapore story, what we wanted to do is to tell you the story using the FinTech Control Tower. And this is mainly, this is what happens when you don't want to do slides. Awesome. And by the way, Sme Leo, she's our head of product at the FinTech Control Tower, hiding. Okay, so as I mentioned, 2021 has been a great year for fintechs globally, but I would say even more so for Singapore, right? While funding raised by fintechs globally almost doubled, as we saw before, to $108 billion in 2021 year to date. Funding for Singapore fintechs has grown by 2.5 times between 2020 and 2021, as you can see it here. From a growth product cluster perspective, what you can note, if you can read the small, is that trading and investment fintechs are one of the growth segments over the past year, raising $727 million, almost $28 million, with a 734% growth. So a really interesting picture. And this includes, for example, you have Matrix Sports, which raised $100 million, and you have MDAC, which raised $147 million. And also $50 million by the alternative platform ADDX. Okay, so the other cluster, I would say that that also raised quite a lot of funding is support fintechs. This is financial infrastructure fintechs. So as you can see here, they raised $426 million. This is a 2,584% year-on-year growth. I feel like I'm reading the bingo or something. And this includes the $400 million by Advanced Intelligence Group at a valuation of $2 billion from a consortium of investors led by SoftBank Vision Fund 2. So pretty exciting for our little red dots. So quarter-on-quarter Singapore outlook and mega rounds. So the most recent quarter, Q3 2021, has been the strongest yet, with $1.4 billion raised by our local fintechs. So this was really driven by the closure of 5 mega rounds, funding rounds exceeding, as I mentioned before on the global story, $100 million. So they were both about $1 billion in total. And if we just go down the product set, so you have, for example, in the insurance space, P&C digital insurer Boltec, who raised $200 million in a Series A. You have crypto investment platform Matrix Sport, which raised 100 million Series C, and cross-border currency trading platform MDAC, who raised 147 million Series D. Then you have AI-driven company, which I mentioned before, Advanced Intelligence Group at 400 million, and you have the digital cross-border payment platform, Neum, who raised $200 million. So with these latest investments, Neum, Matrix, and Boltrek have reached unicorn status, which means that the startups have a valuation of $1 billion or more. So I would say another noteworthy in Q1, so we just have one in Q1 there, as you can see, is Grab, which raised a Series C round, a Series A round, sorry, in January, and then a Series D round by Matchmove, payment as a service platform. All right, so let's go now to funding maturity, and I'm very conscious of time as well, but I think we still have some time. So here in funding maturity, what we're going to do is we're going to start with seed funding. I think seed funding raised $155 million, up by 98% year on year. And some of the interesting ones that we'd like to mention are GoTrade, which raised $7 million, which is a trading platform, and also $5 million by decentralized money market Konami Network, and also $1 million by cloud-based process automation platform Sure. So really interesting. I mean, this is, you know, seed funding. It gets you started, gets you to hire your team. You move your product, you know, from a MVP to another series of MVP for those who have built companies, but pretty interesting. So now we go to Series A. You have Series A in total in Singapore. We raised $848 million, representing really a year-to-year increase of 282%, with obviously the mega rounds driven by Grab and Boltec. So on the other hand, then we have Series B, fintechs, which attracted $345 million. This is up 120% year on year. And some of the notable ones that we'd like to mention is Tunes and B2B finance platform Aspire, which is really interesting. Aspire, actually, if you're running a startup business or if you're running a business, highly recommended. Super seamless. really cool features. All of their product team is fantastic. I really like them. Okay, so FinTech at Series C have attracted $1 billion in funding in 2021, and by far representing, of course, like the biggest one at 711% growth, which really accounts to almost half of the funding and 5 out of 8 mega rounds. So super interesting here. So now should we have a look who's been shopping? So this has been a really strong year for M&A activity for our local FinTech ecosystem, with a number of companies going public or being acquired by major players. So overseas FinTechs actually continue to view Singapore as a pretty interesting acquisition, maybe because there's a gateway to Southeast Asia, right? And as observed by merchant platforms, Pine Labs, the acquisition of digital payments firm Fave for $63 million to accelerate their Southeast Asia cashless future. So an interesting acquisition there. Local players as well are buying. One that's very dear to me because I know them well as well, is robo-advisor solution provider Bamboo. Announced that it was acquiring wealth tech Trade Social to expand Bamboo's product offering into the stocks and crypto and accelerate its global growth. So should we take a look at Trade Social just to see a little bit what they do? They're actually a really interesting one, actually. So just to have a look. So as you can see, Trade Social offers brokers in the Forex market with a cloud-based social trading platform providing information about business and opportunities. You can see sort of, the stage they were at, but despite the stage they were at, right? And when they were founded, actually, that they've been doing, as you can see from the news, some really interesting things, and obviously acquired by Bamboo over the summer. Okay. So I think, in terms of the M&A activity in the local FinTech ecosystem is going to remain robust. And we hear that there's some activity about to happen, but haven't been able to get hold of the information, but I look forward to seeing more of that activity in the coming months. Okay, so I think with that concludes our overview of the FinTech investments and ecosystems. So really excited, reach out to any of us. As we said, we're just in the process of moving to Bridge Plus, and we're gonna be around and hopefully meeting lots of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ray. Thank you for that very informative sharing. There was some pretty amazing stats and growth that you've shown. Let's put our hands again together to thank Ms. Ray once again for their sharing.